All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Dalton Nick are doing our 2022 preview and prediction for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Looking at the coaching staff, Jeff Collins is back for his fourth season, 9-25 record so far. They did add Chip Long, though, pretty good acquisition this offseason. His first season here was he was at Tulane last year. Andrew Thacker, he's the defensive coordinator, his fourth season. He's also been with Collins since 2017. He was with him at Temple as well. They only get back 5 total starters. They added 6 transfers since March. I think that's probably more so now. They continue to do some solid work here late in the portal. Jeff Collins, though, he was expected to be given a long leash due to Paul Johnson leaving. They were going to undergo a complete schematic change from that triple option to some more modern. So the leash has been very long for Collins. There's been no progress one bit. I think the hot seat is certainly starting to warm up. Do you think this is make or break for Jeff Collins, or do you think he'll be afforded another year despite what might happen here in 2022?
I certainly think Collins might be looking for a new job come November this season. I really just don't know if the improvement's there. 9-25 record in 4 seasons in Atlanta, just not quite there. Chip Long's a great get as an offensive coordinator, like you said, bounced around a lot, very talented coordinator. I think he has real potential, but I just don't see it with Collins. I don't see the vision here. 9-25, and when we get to the schedule, this schedule is brutal this year. This team is going to struggle, and I don't think he is the future. I think his leash, his time is up almost. I think he's going to lose his job pretty soon, and Thacker is probably going to be gone with him as well. Very interested to see what they can do with that. You know, they only return 5 stars, like you said. I don't know what to expect out of this team. It seems to be interesting for sure.
Of course, this was a very tough ask to come in here and be successful undergoing that schematic change, but there's been no progress one bit at Georgia Tech. We'll get into how bad they've been right away. Schematic change, of course, starting to get some guys in that fit that system, but recruiting the last 2 years has been pretty underwhelming. They did land Gibbs and Sims in 2020. It seemed like the tide was turning, but it hasn't since. They lost Gibbs. Sims has not been that great. He's a dual threat guy, a great runner, but only 371 yards. He has a turnover problem, not always accurate. Does not have great velocity throwing downfield. Pretty wobbly thrower. He does a good job of finding the open man, though. He's not afraid to put it out there on a rope for his pass catchers that would track down. The passing game was nearly the exact same, though, as it was in 2020. It didn't throw much. Long has worked with similar quarterbacks in Ian Book and Brandon Wimbush, so there's some optimism here for Jeff Sims. What are your thoughts on this passing game that really did not take any steps one bit over the past 2 seasons?
It was a weak passing game, under 200 yards in the air per game. Jeff Sims just didn't quite live up to that expectation. You know, when you have a running back like Jahmyr Gibbs, I guess he should carry the load because he's so talented. Interested to see what he can do at Alabama this year after he transferred out. But I expected a lot more out of Sims, just disappointing. 16 touchdowns in 8 games, not quite what you want to see out of him. Sims needs to definitely step up this year, considering the question marks at the running back room, considering they really revamped it. But when your wide receiving group is just lacking production, you can't really blame Sims entirely. His guys just weren't making catches, but interested to see what he can do this year. I'm a little concerned with his play.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like the running back room. They have Dante Smith. Of course, Gibbs transfers out to Alabama. He's going to be a big-time player there. S.I. Smith, though, Dylan McDuffie, 1,100-plus yards, 12 touchdowns, one of those late additions from Buffalo. Very good runner. And Hassan Hall from Louisville, good vision. Average back as a whole. He had 7 yards per carry this past season. So I kind of like this revamped running back room. It's a good way to replace Gibbs. I think they're doing that pretty well. But like you said, the receiving group, it's not impressive. Malachi Carter, though, he's been around since the Paul Johnson days. He's the best playmaker on offense. It's crazy that he stuck around this long, because he could be an asset somewhere else. Nearly 500 yards on 37 grabs last year. Jahmyr Gibbs was second on the team with 36. Overall, they lose 4 of their top 5 pass catchers, with Carter being the only one back. Maloney Norris, Nate McCollum, they're expected to slide into the lineup. I don't have any notes on these receivers one bit. These guys are all fresh faces. This offense doesn't throw the ball that well, or like really at all. So very concerned with this receiving group, like you said. I want to see them use Sims' legs more this year, because he's a dual threat runner. He's plenty capable. Less than 400 yards last year. Kind of from a play calling standpoint, because he's certainly capable of being up there on that 600 to 800 yard mark. And that'd be highly beneficial for this offense. The offensive line, they added 2 transfers. 94th last year in sacks allowed. That's not good at all. They did have a number of clean pockets, but Sims took a good bit of sacks on his own. Guys not being open, or him just not making the right read. How do you feel about this offensive line that does pick up here quick from Alabama, and Paul Chicho as well at right guard?
Quick's a solid addition, but I think, like you said, the offensive line just didn't really quite help Sims last year. He didn't help himself really either as well. The offensive line needs a lot of improvement here. The running back room, we were talking about McDuffie and Hall. I think they're very talented running backs and they have a real opportunity here, but they're not going to be able to get any ground gains if they don't have any good blocking, right? It's going to start with the offensive line here. The offensive line is weak. I really don't know what to expect out of it. They bring in some guys. Hopefully that has some production, some help. Maybe raise that production a little bit, but definitely a lot of question marks on this offense across the board. Every position has a question mark for me, besides maybe the running back room. Very interested to see what this deep offense can do.
Yeah, Zach Gibson from Akron. He's back at quarterback. He's an experienced veteran. He might play if they need him to, which if he has to play, that's probably not a good sign for this offense. Overall, I'm not very thrilled with this unit. I do like the running backs, but outside of that, who's going to help them out? Will it be the O-line? Will it be the quarterback? I can't even bank on that, so I'm not really sure. Moving to the defense, this is where Collins was supposed to thrive. Him and Thacker have been together 6 years now, 4 at Georgia Tech. They've not showcased any progress at all. Points per game a little fewer this past year, but that was really it. They didn't progress in any of the other areas. They lost a few young players as well. Charlie Thomas is back, though, with that playmaker, 70 tackles, 10 tackles for loss. Had 2 of the team's 3 interceptions last year. Yes, they only had 3 interceptions last year. Playmaking across the board was missing. Hayden, Ellie, 90 tackles. Those are the only 2 guys back from a defense that does not get many starters. It's not pretty one bit. The Tide is not turning it in Atlanta at all. They're very poor last year. They only get a handful of starters back. What are your thoughts on this front 7? Because Zeke Bigger, he's back 6'6", 363. Outside of that, though, I'm not really highlighting many players.
Yeah, there's not a lot of players to highlight. I think you make a good point there. 33.5 points per game given up last year, 455 yards per game. This defense was poor, which is really, you got to think what is going on considering Collins was supposed to be building a strong defense with his defensive coordinator. The interior of their line has good size, but that's about it. These names are not notable. These are not names that jump off the sheet for you. I don't really know what to expect out of this defensive line. I don't think they're going to make a lot of plays this year. I think teams are going to run all over Georgia Tech this year.
I do like the size they have on the interior defensive line. I kept noticing they have a lot of 300-pounders, some big players there. Can they showcase some penetration, though? That remains to be seen. Kind of like Duke, they didn't make many plays on defense, but they did force a lot of fumbles. They're 11th in college football with 14 in that area, so that's the one promising thing from this defense from a year ago. One of the nation's worst pass defenses, though. The lack of playmaking we keep harping on, kind of shocking considering they had Thomas and Carpenter last year, Tariq Carpenter, and then Thomas, who's a late addition to the Senior Bowl and ended up, I think, getting drafted. A rising star in Wesley Walker. He transfers out. Safety Jalen King, the only guy I'm really highlighting here, played meaningful snaps last season, made some good plays, but the secondary was terrible despite having 2 pretty solid players, and the best young talent they had transferred out. So, again, I'm not very hopeful about this secondary. How are you feeling? Because probably the same, because it was not very good last year. There's not a lot of hope left either.
Only 3 interceptions in 2021, just poor across the board. Jalen King, I think he's exciting to watch. I'm trying to find positive things to say here about the defense, and Jalen King is certainly a positive. I think he has real potential. I like what he can do, but he is the only player that really even has anything that stands out in the secondary for me. Outside of him, I have no idea what the secondary is going to do. I think they're going to be poor in the pass yards. 273 yards per game last year giving up is just awful. That is atrocious. Maybe King has a good year. Maybe he becomes a bit of a leader in that locker room. But outside of him, I have no idea what to expect out of this secondary. It's going to be very poor for me.
Yeah, those 121st nationally in pass yards per game allowed. And 3 interceptions, yeah, but only one of them came by a defensive back. Charlie Thomas, their best player, of course. He had 2 picks, like I said earlier. He did everything for them. Yeah, I don't know. No playmaking, not a lot of rising talent. That leads us to the schedule here. Like you said, it was pretty brutal. I don't know what to say. I'm going 2-10 here. I think they'll win at home against Duke, and then I think they'll get a freebie there against Western Carolina. I think the first 4 games, though, they're going to get blown out by Clemson, Ole Miss, and UCF, and then at Pittsburgh is not going to be any kinder. This is a very tough schedule. I don't see many wins. How do you feel about this team that only gets back 5 starters from a 3-win team a season ago? They also had a negative 13 scoring margin. How do you feel? Do you think this will be Collins' last draw?
Georgia Tech is certainly, the administration is certainly not helping the football team by scheduling Ole Miss and UCF. These are teams that are going to blow them out of conference. You open their season against Clemson, that is brutal. The only free win here is Western Carolina, and like you said, they should probably beat Duke, but that second half of the schedule, those last 6 games, they're just going to get blown out probably in every single one of those games at Florida State, at Virginia Tech, at North Carolina, at Georgia in the rivalry game. This is tough. I don't think Collins makes it past Florida State. I don't think he makes it to November, honestly, at this point, considering they will probably be losing a lot of those games by high margins, especially against Pitt, Clemson. It's a tough schedule. there's nothing really great to look at here for this schedule. They should beat Duke. They should beat Western Carolina FCS program. But outside of that, this is a tough schedule for Georgia Tech. It's going to be a long year for fans of the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, Collins should probably get a longer release because this was a heck of a challenge, like I noted at the top of the show. But no progress has been shown one bit. Don't expect them to improve at this point either. I don't know if they'll snag a win or two. I think they'll do that. But yeah, I think Collins will probably be out, unfortunately for him. But no progress one bit leads to him being outed. In the course, they lost numerous games in a row to him last season. Final two came by a combined score of 100-0 to Notre Dame and Georgia. So obviously nothing to smile about in Atlanta. That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Nick, appreciate you joining me.
Yeah, good luck, Georgia Tech. Take care.
Yep. See you guys next time.